Wouldn't it be nice if Adam Sandler didn't count the dates up all so wrong? And wouldn't it be nice to talk together in a format that goes way too long? You know it's time to rewind, baby, for 19 dates of this movie with Drew Barry. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Good morning, listeners. It's another beautiful day here on It's Time to Rewind. I'm your host, Bubbawheat, and joining me today is my guest, Jay Cluitt. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you, Bubba. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on a brand new mini season, and we are discussing what was the movie again?
50 First Dates.
Well, actually, it's 19 first dates, and we're going
Nice.
through them one date at a time. And this week's date is actually the pre-date intro, starting at the beginning of the movie and ending at 8 minutes and 18 seconds, with Henry limping towards a seaside cafe in a dinghy after the mast and steering wheel on his sailboat broke. So, before we get into today's date, or non-date in a way, just a little bit of housekeeping. This is kind of a mini season or like a hiatus season. My main project right now is actually on a completely separate podcast feed. It's Fight Club Minute, but I didn't want this feed to just go empty for the next 6 months. So I am doing 50 first dates, which I thought was a perfect complement to Memento, considering it's the same memory problem. And episodes will be coming out every Tuesday. So that way, if you are listening to Fight Club Minute at the same time, you'll get Fight Club episodes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you will get this It's Time to Rewind episodes every Tuesday. And I broke it up. Each date, in my opinion, is each interaction. I know some of the interactions they have where he gets shot down are not technically dates, but I did count, and he does have 19 interactions with Lucy, and then technically one at the very beginning, which he sees her, but that they don't really have any interaction. So that is the one instance that I did not count as an official date. So this movie starts out, we got the logos, and then, the opening, we get this pineapple, which is somewhat important to the movie. But I think these days, I don't know if you're familiar, but apparently a pineapple, well, more specifically, an upside down pineapple has become a visual cue for swingers. Have you heard that before?
I have not. Pineapple, one of the few fruit that I eat. Yeah, I'm not a big fruit guy, but I may change that now. I don't know. No, I mean, I know this is at least the second Adam Sandler film to feature pineapples, at least reference, because in Little Nicky, they reference it. The devil has to shove a pineapple up Hitler's ass at a later date, at a later time that day. So I don't know if Sandler himself enjoys a pineapple. But it had been a while since I last saw this when I rewatched it for this, and for some reason I thought that the pineapple we see on the beach, that's like, this is the accident that injured Lucy's brain, and we're seeing a quick shot of the aftermath. Like a pineapple was there, like the bouncing tire from a car wreck, the pineapple on the beach. But no, it's just a pineapple. It's just a pineapple.
Maybe I jumped a little bit too far ahead. I guess I should ask, what's your overall thoughts on this movie? Because I know Adam Sandler is kind of a polarizing figure for movie fans, because the majority of his movies don't appeal to most movie critics.
Yes, I think that is fair to say. And yeah, he's. I don't dislike him. I don't dislike a lot of his films, but I find them to be like immature. Would be a good word. Like they're often
To say the
funny.
least.
There's things to enjoy in most of them, but I prefer his more serious. Like his two best films to me are Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems. Which I work with a guy who's a massive Adam Sandler fan. He hates those two films because oh, you like Adam Sandler? You should watch Uncut Gems. And he came back. What did you make me watch? So I like those two. I mean, Big Daddy, I think, was the first one of his that I saw. It's the I think the only one of his that I've seen in the cinema.
Yeah, myself, I'm kind of the same way, although I realize I haven't seen a ton of his movies. Like I haven't seen, I don't think just about any of his real serious roles. Maybe one of the like lesser serious roles. I definitely haven't seen Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems, or Spanglish either. I think that's another one that tends to come up as a better Adam Sandler. Also, I think that's not one of the like Happy Madison productions.
I feel like that would fit in the same kind of bracket as 51st Dates, as like one of the nicer. So I haven't seen Spanglish either, but it doesn't, from what I can tell, it doesn't kind of rely on a lot of gross out puerile humor. You get some of that in this one. You get some of that in the segment we're going to talk about today. It mostly comes from Rob Schneider. As is the case with most of his films, I think. But you don't get a lot of Sandler's friends in here. You get it's a brief cameo in this one we'll get to. But
and I think even like from the Happy Madison, I haven't seen a couple of the big ones. Like I haven't seen Big Daddy or The Wedding Singer, but I have seen I've seen this one. I've seen Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. The two namesakes of the company.
Yeah,
I have at least seen those two.
I'd recommend The Wedding Singer if you like 51st Dates. Wedding Singer has a very sort of similar cast for one thing, but it's a similar kind of feel to it. I've seen most of his bigger ones. I kind of dropped off in the past few years because his Netflix films, other than Uncut Gems, are kind of like I'm good. I don't need to see the ridiculous six. I saw Murder Mystery, or I regret seeing Murder Mystery. I haven't seen the second one or Hubie Halloween, but my co-host over on my podcast, Mark, he really likes Adam Sandler and lots of his films, so he often praises them, and I ignore him when he does that and go about my day with not watching the films.
I think
I like this one.
I think I did see Murder Mystery, and I didn't mind that one. I thought it was all right.
I missed parts of the third act because I fell asleep and I had no desire to go back and correct it. So.
But anyways, we are here to talk about 51st Dates, and this movie starts out with a montage of a bunch of women singing the praises of Adam Sandler's character, which part of me feels like this is a little bit of wish fulfillment on his part.
You could say the same thing for most of his films. If you look at the all of the women that he has been partnered with over his career, the likes of Selma Hayek,
Jennifer Aniston, Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore several times.
Mm-hmm.
Selma Hayek a couple of times. Jessica Biel in one of them. Who was it in Click? Click. I enjoy Click a lot. Kate Beckinsale. Like
yes.
just this long list of women. You're like, you wouldn't know this. No, I don't. So it's all a lot of wish fulfillment. But I mean, one of these women is his actual wife. So
yeah. And although I do like that there is a nice bit of diversity in this montage, it's not just a bunch of very same looking women. Most of them are, young and attractive, but we get a black woman at a salon, we get an Asian woman that's a coroner, and they're all like different walks of life too. And then we get the older, heavier set woman driving the car. And then the brief like 1 second of Kevin James.
Yep.
His cameo, which is mainly just there to add in a joke. And I don't know. I am curious what this movie, like, I don't think this movie says anything about gender identity and sexual identity, but I do like that they bring in Kevin James just to throw in his character could potentially be bisexual, but then they don't say anything about it.
Yeah, and the brief clip they have of Kevin James is just him saying the name Henry Roth. So for all we know, he is talking to the lady who's walking across the bridge, who's saying, "I had such a wonderful week with Henry Roth," and he's just like Henry Roth, just repeating the name. So it's vague enough that they could excuse it if people did say, "Oh, wait, this is a pro-gay film. Oh, get out of my." Which like, those people shouldn't be watching, shouldn't be allowed to speak online. But I, I I don't know how much to read into it as well, given that just a few years later, these two actors were pronounced Chuck and Larry in a white anti-gay film, which I haven't seen, but I have listened to a podcast about it, hosted by a couple of gay men who did not approve of this film at all. So that's my full reading of I now pronounce Chuck and Larry.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either, and I have no interest. And like you mentioned, Adam Sandler's actual wife is in here.
The
She,
dentist.
yeah, she is the dentist, and I think it's interesting that the director's wife is playing the patient in that scene, and in real life, the director's wife, Peter Siegel's wife, is an actual dentist.
Nice. I like it.
Mhm.
When I first saw in the credits Jackie Sandler playing dentist, I was like, wait, he cast his sister as one of his exes? That's no. Looking into it, no, much better.
Yeah, and then we jump into this scene um, with him and
Lynn Collins.
Lynn Collins. Yes, I didn't dig into a lot of the other montage actors because they are kind of all listed. I probably could have, but they're. I don't think many of them are worth talking about. Although I
had a brief scan through their IMDb's and nothing really jumped out at me.
mhm. But I did at least want to point out Lynn Collins. And if you looked at her IMDb, I imagine that you know why, because she did play I forget
Yeah,
her name.
Silver Fox.
Yes, Silver Fox. And
I didn't need to look at her IMDb. I like Lynn Collins. A great deal for various reasons. But yeah, she for me is a highlight of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Not that's the damning with faintest praise you can imagine. Is like the best part of but yeah, she was also in The Walking Dead. Recently, she's in a recurring role in that, which she was excellent in as well. That's it. It's always happy to see Lynn Collins.
Yeah, I do like her in this little role. She doesn't do much, but she just kind of plays dumb, and they're on this like little seaport, and in the commentary they were talking about how I believe this was filmed this was post 9/11, so it was a lot harder for them to film in airports at this point in time, and so they couldn't actually find any airports, but they did find this seaport, and then they actually thought that was a blessing because this is much more visually interesting than any airport, and it kind of gives it a different vibe. And it showcases Hawaii, which we didn't talk, but this entire film is set in Hawaii. It's not completely filmed in Hawaii, but it does feel a little bit like one of those, like Adam Sandler wanted to go on vacation to Hawaii, so it's like, okay, let's make a film in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and it's a lot harder to him jump onto a jet ski when he's at an airport. I guess that wouldn't have worked as well. But yeah, the Hawaii looks beautiful. I have not much relief to say. Not going to go out on a limb and say, "Oh, Hawaii, lovely place to look at." I've never been myself, but it's like a wonderful place. Why wouldn't you want to go and stay there for 4 to 5 months making a film?
Yeah, and it is kind of weird whenever you think about this opening scene, because it does do two things. Like, on one hand, it paints this picture of Henry Roth as just a great person, but also a horrible person.
Yeah, yeah, because I was talking to my wife about this. I was asking her like the opening montage, all those women. Like, do you think they find him Adam Sandler's character attractive? She's like, no, it's not. Like it's all just a kind of a fling. As the women say, it's just a summer fling.
Mhm.
Because the film goes out of its way over the course of it to say he's not an attractive man. He has a egg-shaped head, is said 27 times over the course of the film.
Mhm.
So it's all just like, I'm going to show these women a good time, but in like I'm also gonna myself a good time. Which, yeah, good guy, but no one comes out of this losing, I guess. Like he
But
does make them have a good holiday, a vacation. They have a lovely time, but also he gets what he wants. So he probably sleeps well at night, thinking he hasn't screwed these women over. Like,
and I think it sounds like there's at least two women that he gives his name as Harry instead of Henry. And then of course the one gag with the one less attractive woman, he goes full on fake name with Harry Paratesticles.
I mean, I thought she was talking about his testicles. I didn't think she was saying his name. I thought that she was just describing his genitals.
I always read it as that was the name that he gave her was Harry.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I did find it odd why he comes up with a different lie each time as to why these women presumably don't know each other. But why he's got one of them, he says he's married, one is he's joining the priesthood. He's gay, he's doesn't believe in phones, he just runs away, just with a consistent lie. Like what why?
Yeah, I do like that touch too. Again that that goes to the one less conventionally attractive woman is the one where he just runs away because he doesn't. Again, it is that bit of damning to this movie, which does paint the writers of this on in a slightly worse light. The fact that he doesn't care enough about the less attractive woman to give her a convincing lie. He just runs away.
And when they're talking about the activities that they did over the course of the week, so the other ones were like we slow danced, snorkeled, scuba dived, mountain climbed, and with her, she's like, we got drunk. That's her activities. It's like, okay, so was this a slow week for Henry? And he's just like, we'll just go to a bar and get drunk with some random, and that's who we found. Is that what the writers are trying to say? I hope not, but that's what's on the screen.
Yeah, and then we get this secret agent lie where he goes,
Intelligence operative.
yeah, yeah, and this is fun. I think few people could really pull it off, but I think Adam Sandler does a good job just speaking nonsense into his watch. I like the going into the witch doctor, the Walla Walla Bing Bang.
Yep. See, I don't think he does a particularly good job. I think this paints the Lynn Collins character in a particularly gullible light. That she's buying this obvious nonsense. Uh, I don't think he is very convincing in his intelligence operative
Yeah, I would
jargon.
say I almost wish that they did do a better job of in the montage kind of showing that it may be the that he goes for a specific type of woman who is, less intelligent. Like Lynn Collins' character seems to be Linda, isn't her character name?
Yes, he calls her Lisa, and she said Linda, but I changed your name
Yeah.
for your protection. Yeah,
uh, but in the montage you do get a lot of professionals, and they they don't seem they don't seem ditzy for the most part. They all seem like normal, intelligent. A lot of them are businesswomen that is successful. You got the
yeah.
dentist, the firefighter.
I mean, there's one who's just in a kitchen, one who's just walking, but she's in a business suit. So they all seem, as you say, professionals to some
Mhm.
degree. I mean, Kevin James is working in a factory, but I mean, there's a factory in my office, and there's a lot of intelligent people in that factory. So I don't know. They're all geniuses, apart from uh, Linda, maybe.
Yeah, and really only two of them comments anything about the sex. You got the Asian woman that says, he pounded me like a mallard duck,
Yep.
and and then just one other person that references that they had sex. But other than that, it's mostly about the experience.
Yeah, he has a girlfriend for a week basically, and then
Mhm.
goes back to his life, the aquarium.
And then after he gets his escape, which is this great perfect timing with this random jet
Perfect
ski.
timing. The
And
squish noise as he lands is unpleasant.
yeah, and you get to the comments. How's he just says, I'll give you $20 to keep going. The guy's completely game for it. It's like, all right, how's your balls? Oh, they're killing me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't doesn't affect this guy at all, I guess. He might be bruised a little bit from where Santa kind of lands on him. But $20 is $20. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I've never ridden a jet ski on my own, so I don't know how well I'll be able to control them with if just some unexpected person jumped on the back. But good for this guy. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And then we get the dolphins, and we get a little bit of what Henry Roth does for a living, and we get this special effect push in, which I was one thing that surprised me. Like if you had to guess how many special effect shots do you think are in this film?
There's this one going through underwater into the vet's office. It can't be many. It's not something I was paying attention to when I watched it, if I'm honest. So I wouldn't even know where to guess. One. This one.
I believe the number they gave in the commentary was 127.
Wow. Okay. Uh, sure. I'll have to keep an eye on that next time I watch it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the big ones, it's a lot of little ones, like and we don't get there today, but we'll get there next week. And the Hukilau Cafe, the that was actually shot in LA, and there's a big translight, and they use CGI to make it look more realistic.
Okay, so basically, any time they go into or out of that building, it's a special effects show. Kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
But this one we get the shot of the dolphins, and then it goes through the window, and then it goes into this kind of underground vet office, I guess you call it. But also they kind of imply that this is where he lives, because we never see his house, and there's definitely a bed set up, unless this is just his hookup area and he never takes any woman to his house.
I mean, I imagine it's between this and his boat, perhaps. Maybe he lives like if he's not at work, he's on his boat.
Yeah,
Or
I guess.
staying with wherever his latest fling is staying.
Yeah, and this is the introduction to Rob Schneider's character Ula and his kids, and the kids are all Hawaii natives. They'd never acted before, and they are adorable and fantastic in every scene. I do love all of them. I did try to look them up to see if any of them were available, but I didn't. I only really found social media information from one of them, and I did not get a response back.
I mean, fair enough. What's your thoughts on Rob Schneider as an actor or a performer?
I mean, he is. I feel like Adam Sandler can be kind of hit and miss, but I've not really liked anything that I can think of that Rob Schneider has done. I mean, I don't mind him as Ula, but he's definitely he has some bits that make me laugh. But whenever I think too hard about his character, I am it's just a little bit icky. Even though I was surprised, did you know that he's actually a quarter Filipino?
Yes, I did. I mean, he always seems to be playing characters who are ethnically diverse, should we say, in Sandler films. But I knew that he was mostly American, but with the Filipino.
Yeah, his mother is half Filipino, although she does, she looks very Filipino, and I believe that she she has a Filipino name, and it was his grandmother that was from the Philippines. Yeah. So he does have at least a little bit of that culture in his family.
Sure.
So it's at least slightly less terrible.
Yes. He is never like a selling point for Sandler films. I've never like, Rob Schneider had a great running like gag in these films. Like, it's never. He always detracts from them. I've heard. I listened to the Fly on the Wall podcast with Dana Carvey and David Spade all about SNL. So they had Rob Schneider on, and he's like quite a emotional and thought-provoking guy to listen to in an interview, which is very different to any of the characters I've seen him play anywhere ever. So he seems like a really nice guy and who like puts a lot of effort into his work, but that work is stuff I don't really care for.
Although I'm not sure I actually saw any movie where he says the line. Maybe I think maybe he says it in Billy Madison, but I do on occasion go,
You can do it.
yeah, do his line, "You can do it."
Yeah. Yeah, I think he does that in Big Daddy and Little Nicky too. I think he does that, but I can't be sure. It could be every other film than this. I don't know. Yeah, but he's here kind of mopping up the immature humor, or most of the immature. There's some other bits like Sean Astin has quite a lot later
Yeah,
in the
but
film.
I love Sean Astin in this in this movie though, but I'll get to him a bit later. But I think the other big character that we get in this scene is the Penguin.
Yes, what's the penguin's name? Willie the penguin, the
Yeah,
laughing penguin. Yeah,
it's
I enjoy a penguin on screen, laughing or otherwise. They're always fun.
he's adorable, and they really get the most out of him, and really all the animals in this movie. They really make good use of them.
I mean, this is why I got into this business, the podcast about sea animals. I'm very happy I got some walrus action, which we'll get to. The other penguin's great. Like, all films should have penguins in them.
Yeah, it's they managed to get a lot out of the Penguin. And oh yeah, one other thing that I noticed, which going back to the special effects where they go through the window, and whenever they turn around, the window from looking from the inside is actually a big HD TV.
Yeah, looking at it now, yes, yeah, that's right. I like that they set up the video camera as well, which gets used later in the film. That's established
Yeah.
here with like sharks. They only bite you if you touch touch the private parts. Cannot confirm, but I like that they've established that in the start of the film. So
Yeah, and I do actually kind of like this setup that they have. It's kind of visually interesting whenever they have this mirror, and that they have this two shot with Adam and Ula, well, Henry and Ula, or Adam and Rob talking to each other, and they have the reflection, which I think in a way it almost turns it into a three shot, because you get the back of their head, but also their face in the mirror, which I think it's a little bit more visually interesting, although it's not something like if I was doing Memento, I would read something into the symbol, the symbolism of doing that. But in this, I'm fairly certain it was just, oh, that's interesting.
I don't think there's a lot of symbolism in Santa's films. Could be wrong. So listeners, let us know. What are we missing?
Yeah, and then we go into the whole walrus scene with the character Alexa, played by Lucia Struce.
Yes, not an actor I'm familiar with.
No, she hasn't done a whole lot, and I am this is another character where I'm curious, where I'm actually going to have at least one non-binary guest to get their opinion of this character. But the way that she's presented is, you could argue that Alexa is a non-binary character, because she never, I mean, I'm going to refer to her as a she, because they don't off, this was really before pronouns were as big a thing as they are now. And she's played by an actress, so I'm going to go with she pronouns.
It's fair, yeah.
But in theory, you could say that she is a non-binary character in this movie, because they give her a lot of gender ambiguity with her character. They present her very androgynous in the way that she looks, and she has kind of a deeper voice, and they make a lot of references to I think in two scenes from now, I believe they have a line where it's like, isn't that the woman? And Adam's like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I yeah, I'm glad for that. Yeah, I mean, I've always assumed this character to be female, just because she is mainly, as you say, it's a female actress, actor, and
And she
I
also has
just
the line where she is hypothetically talking about her manhood.
okay, I missed that bit, but but just and the name Alexa is a stereotypically female name, so I just
Mhm.
assumed from that. I guess if I'm incorrect, I apologize to anyone who Bob. But when she runs, she looks like the T1000. Uh,
But I mean, in a way, I kind of feel bad for the actress just because she is always the butt of all the jokes. They are so mean to her, but she is just absolutely game for everything, and she just always comes out of this with a smile. Like she's the eternally optimistic character.
yes, and I will be fair. The things that she does are stupid. So, like there's the temperature of the pool, jumps in the pool when she really must know there is a thermometer, and dive head first into the fish barrel to get the fish at the bottom. Like these are things that smart people don't do. I get it. She could be caught up in the moment. There's a sick walrus, as far as she's concerned, and she's just trying to get things done as quickly as possible. But she jumps into the pool to check the temperature. Like at the very least, stick your hand in. Like,
Yeah, and then we get the first big gross out humor with projectile, this massive amounts of projectile vomit from the walrus all over Alexa.
it's glorious. I love the walrus. Love him so much. And all of the walrus bits in this film are great. When he's dancing at the end with the other walruses and they're kissing, the high five. It's all fantastic.
Yeah, and I
It's
think that the saving grace is the fact that for one, Alexa is not bothered by it, that she does have this positive outlook. She's like, this is why I got into this business, to help animals. And she is just completely head to toe covered with this vomity goo.
it's
And
disgusting. So much of it.
and then afterwards, the conversation with Adam Sandler and Jocko, where he believes that Jocko, they had this planned out ahead of time. So it wasn't the fact that Jocko was actually sick, but he was actually in on playing a prank on Alexa. So I think that's kind of adds to it as well, whether or not I do think that this movie humanizes the animals a little bit too much, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, and it kind of adds to Sandler being like good at his job because he can tell that Jocko isn't actually sick. This is part of because he just thought it was gonna be a burp, not a vomit.
Mhm.
But he's not concerned. Not he's just like he's in on the bit the whole time. So I mean, as much whatever Adam Sandler does over the course of the film, he's a good vet at the aquarium. He's good at his job, and he's especially with walruses. That's his whole big plan is to go to sail to Alaska and to the walrus habitat. And
Yeah,
so this is his forte.
to study the underwater habits of walruses. Yeah, and then this scene finishes up with Henry Roth on his boat, and this is actually Adam Sandler piloting this boat, which I was a little surprised. And he looks good. You can kind of tell like it does have this helicopter shot, and you can see that is Adam Sandler, and I think that's nice the way that works.
Yeah, it looks good. I was thinking this is one of those special effects shots, but no, if it's him doing it. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we don't really get too much of him on this boat until disaster strikes and the mast just randomly breaks, which I'm not sure how to feel about that. I mean, I guess it's just, the Deus Ex Machina kind of situation, because it doesn't appear to be that stormy. I guess it just shows that this is something that he was able to get on a an
Aquarium
aquarium.
vet salary.
Yeah. So it's not the highest quality wood. It's probably, old, rotting, not
Yeah,
very well taken care of.
I mean, the sail's quite patchy. The ship does appear to be like it looks like I say an old ship, but with some newer, but not like new gear and equipment on the deck. So yeah, it looks like a kind of a hodgepodge of it's thrown together. Which, yeah, if he spends so much of his time wooing these romantic flings instead of working on his boat, maybe that's a lesson he has to learn. And he does. Spend more time on the boat. Build the life that you want.
And I guess he just leaves his boat there. He does at least take the time to roll down the sails, because you can see when he's in this dinghy that all the sails are rolled down, and other than the one that was broken off. So I assume that he's going to, he's going to go into the Hukilau and then get either before or after he goes to the Coast Guard to get a tow.
Yeah, he doesn't spend enough time on the boat to make this Deep Blue Sea adjacent, I would say. So we won't be covering this over on another podcast. Because it's this scene and a bit at the end.
Yeah,
it's some stuff near water, but it's not Deep Blue Sea adjacent enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's just a lot of marine animals, but that's basically it.
No sharks. The shark's just gonna bite Rob Schneider off screen.
Yeah, just reference to a shark bite. Yeah. And as we do get this scene, which I'm fairly certain that little building that we see at the base of this, gorgeous Hawaii landscape is supposed to be the Hukilau Cafe.
It would make sense. Yeah, because he's heading somewhere, so why not? So he's got to be heading there. Yeah. He can't just head to a random bit of land. He's got to pick a destination. So why not?
Yeah, and I think it works well that that we kind of cut him down a bit after building his character up so much in that opening montage, that this ends up being his character. This is pretty much like the low point of the character in the entire movie, other than the breakup scene.
Yeah. It's a very quick turnaround, a very quick setup, takedown. Normally it takes a little while to get into Act 2 of a character. But no, you're right. He's turned around quite quickly. I'm trying to think if there is a lower point. No, I think you're right. Other than the breakup. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like Lucy is the one that has the bigger ups and downs, but Henry Roth as a character is always looked at in a positive light. He's always like the good guy trying to do the best thing, even whenever he's trying to go back to his womanizing ways. It's like that. He's set up as a womanizer in the opening montage, but then never again, really. Like, from as soon as we meet him, he is like the perfect guy. He is nice, he's caring, he works with animals, he has a boat, he has ambitions. He is just like the A1 perfect nice guy. And like, nice not even as, the fake nice guy, but a truly nice guy.
You got to wonder if Blake Clark and Sean Astin found out about his more womanizing ways, if they'd have come around as soon as they did, or if that might have taken a little bit longer once they found out more about Henry Roth's past.
Yeah, they just kind of have a quick reference to it about him. If you're the kind of guy who's okay with her losing her memory every night, so that's not the kind of guy I want to have around my daughter.
Yeah. I feel like if they knew the string of flings, the fling string, they'd be less okay.
And then that is the end of this episode, the introductory episode. This is the, we get 8.5 minutes before we are introduced to Drew Barrymore and the Hukilau Cafe. This is the pre-date episode. So is there anything that you have to say about this intro, or this movie as a whole either?
I won't go into too much about the rest of the film, but when you emailed me about being on, you said I could have the first or the last chapter, and I replied, if I get the last chapter, then it's going to be about how much of a nightmare Lucy's life is, particularly during her pregnancy. That would have been like, so I mean, once you start showing, it's like 7 months of just trauma to get past every day, and the video kind of method that they use probably would have been changed for that. It would have had to have somebody there. Like, it's okay, it's okay, calm down, it's okay. Like, that just would have been unpleasant to get through. But as a film, like, I've been on like films scene by scene. I've done like a dozen or so at this point. This is the first one that my wife has liked. This is the first one. Like, I'm on 51st Dates. She's like, great, we can watch the film. Like, she's not into like, Die Hard 1 and 2, Great Escape, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Deep Blue Sea 1 to 3, Memento, Grounded, like Wicker Man. None of these are like, yes, let's watch this film. It's 51st Dates. She's on board, so thank you for that one. She probably won't join me to watch Fight Club.
Oh, you're welcome. This has been fun. I'm looking forward to this, even with some of the more problematic scenes. But I'm coming at this from a mostly positive perspective. I'm definitely not gonna gloss over some of the problems that this has, and I'm probably gonna bring it up more whenever we get to the bit at the end. But I did just listen to the commentary track yesterday, and I do think that it's interesting that they mention how, like, this movie ends with not a magic, like, it's not a magic pill that fixes her memory or has this solution, but instead it ends with them dealing with her disability in a more realistic way. Like, they are adapting their lifestyle to accommodate her disability rather than fixing it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a real world solution kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got many other UK guests on your schedule, but one issue that this film does have is, I don't know if you're familiar with the film, the Sam Jackson, Robert Carlyle film Formula 51. That's a drug film, America, England crossover. In the UK, that's called The 51st State, which makes it very easy to confuse with this film when discussing it.
That's funny. Yeah, I only heard, like, the only other issue with the title was it was originally called 51st Kisses, and then they changed it to 51st Dates. Although it is 51st Dates in the UK, right? It's not.
It is, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's only called this. There's no alternative titles for it anywhere that I've seen, so I think it's just 51st Dates.
Yeah, but this, I'm looking forward to continuing this, continuing this project, this mini season. I'm already enjoying it more than I thought I would be. I was definitely a little concerned going into an Adam Sandler movie to basically live with for the next several months. But just doing it 1 week at a time, I think it'll be a bit more manageable. And I believe I have a good slate of guests with a lot of people that do love this movie. I think there is a lot to like in it. Yeah. And I'm definitely not going to try to not gloss over the problematic issues. I mean, we have Rob Schneider playing a Hawaiian man, but aside from that, it's a fun movie. I like it. I'm looking forward to hearing more opinions on it, and hopefully everybody listening will enjoy listening to me talk about it. And thank you for being my first guest in this venture. And you talked about doing so many other scene by scenes. So why don't you go ahead and take a moment to let everybody know about at least some of those projects and where you can be found online.
Thank you. I'm always happy to kickstart another project, another chapter. I've done it many times. I'm often on the first guest for a lot of things, which I always like. I don't know how it's happened, but I do enjoy it. But yeah, so my own personal projects, Con Air, the podcast, finished earlier this year, where myself and my co-host Mark went through Con Air scene by scene. We broke that down into 39 or 40 chapters, and that's all done and finished. You can find that Con Air, the podcast. And Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, is our main project, where we went through all 3 Deep Blue Sea films, scene by scene, a few years ago at this point, and we're now looking at deep blue sea adjacent films, which is any film that's directed by Rennie Harlin or features lots of aquatic action or sharks. So you were on to talk about Aquaman a little while ago. But there's an Aquaman sequel coming out at some point, so we'll wait and see if that's any good or not before we cover it, because I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the first one.
I mean, considering a lot of the movies you cover, I don't see how being a good movie is a requirement.
That's true. Like, the ones that aren't necessarily good are still often entertaining to talk about. Like the likes of Ice Sharks and Shark in Venice are just objectively bad films, but they're a lot of fun to talk about when they feature shark fins that can cut through ice. So,
have you covered The Shark Exorcist?
It's on the list, but we've had one of our regular guests, Kevin Culp. He made his like lockdown mission was to watch all of the shark films he could find, and he's got a list of over 100, and I think Shark Exorcist is the bottom of that list. So we're not going to get to it anytime soon, but I think we'll get there eventually, maybe. But we do try and not just do terrible shark films. We've done some of the bigger ones recently. Meg, for instance. There's a Meg 2 coming out very soon. But we also look at the Pirates of the Caribbean films. We're doing a franchise on those. All the Rennie Harlin movies. Having a fun time over on Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. Anything remotely Deep Blue Sea adjacent, we'll talk about it. So you can find us pretty much everywhere. Deep Blue Sea Pod is social media for that.
Well, that sounds good. And I am Bubbawheat, and you can find me on just about all the social medias out there where I'm at Bubbawheat. This show, It's Time to Rewind. We also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss episodes as they come out, as well as be aware of what we're covering in future seasons, which I may or may not go to another big project with Star Trek for season 6, but get back to me in a few months and see if that changes or not. But for now, this is 51st Dates, and I realize I haven't figured out a good closing, but I will see you tomorrow, I guess, or technically next week.
Bing bang, all bing bang.
Or what was it? I hope you'll join me for breakfast next week.
I think that works well. Yeah.
There we go. Figured it out on
the fly. Do it live.
Perfect. I'll do it live.
With Henry Roth. Henry Roth.
Harry pair of testicles.
Henry Roth.
Henry Roth.
Henry Roth.
Henry Roth.
Henry Roth. Why didn't you tell me you were a secret agent?